Hello, Jan.
Hi.
Welcome, guys, to another episode of the Good Place interview series. This time, you see at the back a beautiful skyline right there.
The only skyline in the Netherlands.
I tend to disagree. But this famous skyline is the skyline of Rotterdam. Today, I'm here in Rotterdam because of you, Jan, for another new episode for the first time, actually, in Rotterdam. I'm already super happy that it's not freezing. And
spoiler alert, this is the second time we're doing this interview. And first time we recorded it, it was 0 or sub-0 degrees. So the recording didn't work out. I wonder why.
And now he's already taking over. That's comfortable how he feels. But that's okay. You know, like our brains are not freezing. We can think more clear. And I'm happy to be here joining again with you on a public bench. For those who don't know me, I'm Robin. And for those who don't know the channel, this channel is about conversations with people about the place they live in and about whether they're in a good place in life. And it's up to them how much they would like to share or not. As you've guessed, I'm here with Jan. I've known Jan for quite some time already. I know he's Serbian, but actually that's all I know other than other creative projects that he's doing. So today it's about Jan, about finding more about how he got here in Rotterdam, how he got here in the Netherlands in the first place. So Jan, I would like to give you the floor to tell us a bit more about yourself and how you're feeling today.
Well, thanks for having me, first and foremost. Hi, everybody. I'm Jan. I'm originally Serbian. I'm currently based out of Rotterdam, and I'm a producer.
A producer of?
I specialize in podcasts. So yes, I produce podcasts for a living. I not only look like an aging hipster, I am one.
So this pressure's on, you know, like sitting next to a podcast producer. And recording this one on a public bench in Rotterdam. We're actually in the Luchtpark. Could you tell us a bit more about what this place is?
Well, this place used to be a train station. There was a train line going from Hofplein in Rotterdam to Scheveningen, and it didn't make much sense to keep it operating because this train station is kind of like between two big train stations, the Block and the Centraal, but it's not connected to any of them. And so I think around 2010, it just wasn't feasible anymore. And it's been turned into a park.
I always wanted to have one of the recordings and episodes on a train station. So, I'm happy to be here and with a beautiful skyline at the back.
Yeah, it's not super easy because those information screens at train stations tend to interfere with Bluetooth. So yeah, the sound is usually never good.
Okay. Yeah, we don't want to do a third recording of this episode. No. But Jan, we got to know each other in Amsterdam.
Back when A City Made by People was still a magazine.
When we were still doing magazines, that's right. Now it's podcasts. How did you end up in the Netherlands, first of all, in Amsterdam? Then?
Well, that's a very long story, and I'm going to try to shorten it. I ended up in the Netherlands because of CouchSurfing. Now,
for those who don't know.
Yeah, if you don't know, CouchSurfing was and still is a website where you can find random people who are willing to host you on their couches at your travel destination. Everything was free back in the day, and it was all about the community. And so in 2012, I went on a very badly organized trip to Vienna via a travel agency. And after that, I told myself, I'm never gonna use travel agencies again. Let's figure out how to do this cheaply. And at that point, I had known a lot of people who had been couchsurfing for years. I just never tried it because it was always some kind of a weird roommate situation or whatever. But yeah, anyway, I signed up for CouchSurfing. Hosted a couple of people from all over the world in Belgrade in 2013, and one of them was a Portuguese girl who was living in Amsterdam. And then late 2013, my partner and I visited her in Amsterdam, and that was our first experience of this part of the world. We didn't really think much of it. And we were kind of thinking about moving abroad, but it was kind of like my partner grew up in the UK. Does it make sense to try and make it to London? He also wanted to go to Germany. And I was like, you know what? I don't want to go to Germany because like I would like to go to Berlin, but if you fail to get to Berlin and end up in Bavaria or something, that's a completely different country even. And
I grew up in Bavaria.
that explains a lot. No, I'm kidding. But yeah,
Still, I'm here.
Anyway, so a couple of years later, we did move here, and the Portuguese girl who lived in Amsterdam is still living in Amsterdam, and we have been friends to this day.
Wow. So couchsurfing led to a friendship.
Yeah.
Okay. And where do you live in? Well, was it Serbia already? But you were born in Yugoslavia.
Yeah, well, the perks of living in the Balkans is that you get to change like several countries by never leaving your house. You just need to stick around for long enough.
Okay. But you already had the wish to leave the Balkans?
Yeah, I did. When I was studying, I actually really wanted to go to Scandinavia. The University of Oslo had a very nice master's program that I was really interested in, but that never happened for various reasons. So, yeah, I think after the presidential elections in 2012, I kind of decided it was time to go somewhere else.
And what was the groundbreaking thing that you chose to go to Amsterdam?
That's a really great question. I think I wanted a melting pot of a city. When we visited the Portuguese girl, her name is Anna. Hi, in case she's watching.
You're going to be next.
She lived at a big Dutch house with like multiple roommates, which is like not a super exciting living situation. However, everybody was like from a different country, and then their significant others were from different countries. And so I was like, oh, we have like just 5 or I don't know, 6 nations sleeping here tonight. And that's kind of fascinating. Like I wanted that in my life.
And also something else, and we touch on, your partner is a guy as well, right?
Yes.
Does that also had like an influence on moving to a more, say, liberal city like Amsterdam?
Yeah, it definitely did. I think we personally never had any particular issues as a gay couple in the Balkans, but that always really depends on your environment. If in one of the bigger cities, things are normally fine. If you're not, things are normally not. And
so like if you're live in a village, then
yeah, no,
there's less acceptance.
There's even a town in Serbia whose mayor claims that there are no gays there.
Oh.
So
they already moved.
Well, or they have just been forced to marry women, I guess. Yeah, no, it's pretty dark. But basically, it was kind of like it would be great to like not have to lie to our landlord that we're actually siblings or something. So,
oh wow, that's hilarious.
Yeah.
Okay, without showing your passport. Okay, but then yeah, of course, Amsterdam was the right next step in your life to move towards.
Yeah, I agree.
But after a certain period of time, you also left Amsterdam.
I did.
Why was that?
I just think the stage of gentrification that Amsterdam was in didn't vibe with my brain at the time, if that makes sense. So like Amsterdam has this reputation of like being a city of arts, of squats, of like all the alternative people and alternative places and stuff. And I think around like 2018, 19, that was not really gone, but the city was in that weird transitional period where like a lot of alternative stuff was like being pushed out of the city center, but at the same time, it still was unable to find its place outside of the city center. And so at one point it was all about tourism, waffle stores, and high-end boutiques. And I just think I didn't want that at that stage of my life. Whereas Rotterdam was in an earlier stage of gentrification. There's still a few alternative places around the center. Sadly, not as much because the city of Rotterdam is changing itself. But yeah, Rotterdam was just more exciting at the time. The food scene was really creative. There was a lot of stuff going on. I used to come here often for museums, exhibitions, music festivals, etc. And so yeah, I just felt like a place that yeah, I should be in.
A lot of things that you decided to move here and live here.
Yeah.
But you said there's a few words in those sentences where you say used to, or what's Rotterdam in 2024?
Well, it's different to Rotterdam in 2018, which is perfectly normal. The cities always change. I think essentially the city is gentrifying. The rents are soaring, not as much as they are in Amsterdam, but for example, a couple of restaurants I really liked closed because the rent became too expensive, or their entire thing was about experimentation and fusion and stuff, and that's not necessarily the most commercially viable thing at all times. Also, like, entire blocks are being demolished to make way for new mixed-use skyscrapers. I'm all for mixed use, but I'm not necessarily in favor of displacing all the people living in social housing in those buildings. And so, yeah, cities always change. Not everything is bad. For example, we just got a new food court not far away from here in another former train station that's no longer used on this same line. So that's fun. And as I said, some alternative places still exist around the center, but it's just, yeah, the city has changed in the meantime.
Yeah, and it's really interesting to see how are you going to cope with change in those cities, eh? Like, are we always going to run away from change, or are we going to embrace it, accept it? But are you thinking of leaving Rotterdam again?
I am, but I
reveal.
Yeah, but it doesn't have to happen anytime soon.
No.
I am thinking about moving back to Amsterdam at some point. I think if I decide to stay in the Netherlands, I identify more with Amsterdam. I think that's what I'm saying now. Ask me again in like half a year or something.
But Amsterdam also has changed again.
Yeah, but I think Amsterdam is kind of becoming more fun again because, like, you have all these areas outside of the center that are getting more fun. For example, last time I went to Boston Lumber, I couldn't believe how different it was from like the first time I experienced it, which was in 2013. And
I lived there.
You did?
Yeah.
Were you the original gentrifier?
Yeah.
Okay, how did that feel?
Well, I mean, you talk about melting pot. That's where also different worlds collide.
Yeah, absolutely.
Where you have the more like social housing, a lot of more Muslim population is aggregated and live together, and then in between you have the third wave coffee. Places popping up and new brunch places and so on. And they seemingly live next to each other. I'm not sure seemingly live with each other, but alongside each other. Maybe that's a better word. Overall, I think what I like about Amsterdam is that all these neighborhoods are more mixed, for the worse and for the better.
Well, you live in The Hague now. How did that happen? And what's it like compared to Amsterdam?
Well, just like that. It's the neighborhoods are so segregated and so different.
Okay.
They're not so mixed as in Amsterdam.
Okay.
So the neighborhood that I live in is very white, international, a lot of expats. There's no Muslim community in that neighborhood. But at the same time, rents I mean, it's not only Muslim community or population. It's all kinds of cultural communities they live in different neighborhoods in The Hague. and you can appoint them and say, okay, yeah, those are very colored and mixed neighborhoods. And if you like to live in those kind of surroundings, then you can find these neighborhoods. But I love to have them in every neighborhood,
Yeah.
not just in particular neighborhoods.
But do you think that would change? Because like, hey, The Hague has also been changing in recent years. So
Yeah, but I mean the area. So the neighborhood that I live in is so expensive that nobody can afford anymore. So if they change the rents in those areas to more what expats are willing to pay for rent, nobody with a regular household income can afford these kind of rents. So they will never move to these kind of areas. Yeah. So I mean that's the thing. What I sometimes miss in The Hague is I would love to have different neighborhoods be more mixed, because I think it's also more of a representation of society.
yeah, because The Hague is reasonably diverse as is, but it's not mixed.
No, exactly. So you can be in one part of the Hague, and that's like complete different bubble. And then suddenly you cross the street and you enter a neighborhood. You're like, where am I? It feels almost like being abroad somewhere.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, which is fun to experience, but probably not the most sustainable in terms of just like the way a city lives and operates.
No, exactly. What about Rotterdam? Are neighborhoods mixed? I do feel Rotterdam is super diverse.
Yeah, I think they are more mixed than than in The Hague. Apparently, I don't think it's ideal because there are still areas that are like predominantly this or predominantly that. And the south of Rotterdam kind of like is considered a ghetto for Dutch standards, which have nothing to do with what that word means. But yeah, I think they are mixed. One of my first impressions about Rotterdam before I even moved here is that like when you go to Rotterdam, you actually see very mixed friend groups in terms of like ethnicities and stuff, whereas I think even in Amsterdam you don't see that super often, and let alone in The Hague. So yeah, I think Rotterdam is more mixed.
Is that something you also look for in neighborhoods if you would make a move? Or what are the criteria for a neighborhood to move to?
Ideally yes, but ultimately when we were moving to Rotterdam, we were looking for a place that would kind of tick some other boxes first. My life and work were still in Amsterdam, so I really wanted to be close to the train station. And then we went from, oh, let's live in a skyscraper to, oh, let's have a backyard because that's gezellig and we have cats. So yeah, those were kind of like the
criteria.
But yeah, I mean, ideally you want to have it all in your neighborhood. You never do.
So what would it be in Amsterdam? A backyard?
I don't know. I think there are areas I am interested in living in, but I'm not sure about the living space itself. I don't know. I think it's going to be the area first.
Okay. And is Amsterdam also a choice because you have a lot of friends there still?
No, not necessarily. Actually, I think most of my friends are in The Hague right now.
Oh, really?
So if I'm choosing a city like only based on that, I would move to The Hague, and I was considering it in the past.
Okay.
But yeah, at one point I had a lot of friends in Utrecht. So yeah, it's not necessarily about friends. It's more about just everything that the city offers and all the different stuff you can do. Like even like as simple as there are certain courses I want to take, and I don't want to be the guy who commutes. And I also think as a person doing what I'm doing for a living, maybe Amsterdam would bring me more opportunities.
Okay.
Because like at this point, I don't have any Dutch clients. So I could be anywhere. And I was anywhere. In like 2022, I spent 3 months just traveling and working remotely.
Yeah. So you make those choices also on the career or your own business.
Yeah,
on
well,
which city fits your business best.
yeah, if I don't stay in the Netherlands, I would actually really want to try and get to an English-speaking country, just because I think I would have much more career opportunities there.
As a podcast producer.
Yes. Well, my
Okay.
background's actually in broadcasting, so I think
Yeah.
if I move to London, I might just burn out and come back, or I might actually land a nice career.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Interesting. So a city that has like a international function as a good international springboard within the fields of broadcasting, podcast production.
Or I might just get a cabin in the woods in Sweden and and change all of these answers.
As long as you have internet.
Yes.
Who knows? Who knows? You see yourself living somewhere like long term, or as long as it's fun and works for you? And so, how's your partner in this, by the way?
Well, that's a loaded question. Okay, I'm going to answer to the first part of the question. I do see myself having a home base. I would really like to retire in the Netherlands, believe it or not,
Okay.
because like things
That's a
work.
statement.
Things work here. But because I don't plan to retire for the next like 30 years, probably. I mean, maybe not 30. I mean, who knows? Like in this economy, we're probably not going to retire anyway. But
By the way, in the previous episode, there was somebody who retired from Sao Paulo, Brazil, and already knew that Amsterdam would be the place that she would live
okay,
in.
all right. Yeah, so I would like to retire here. It's just that, will I be living here for the next 40 years? No, I would like to also live elsewhere for like smaller or bigger periods of time in between.
Okay. Second question. Your partner in this. Does he have a say?
Sometimes.
I'm interested because not every decision, of course, is a decision by yourself.
Yeah, we had a conversation recently about where do we want to live and what do we want from life. Because it's good to like ask yourself that every couple of years. I think for him, moving to Amsterdam would make a lot of sense because there are much better jobs for him in Amsterdam, and he's been actually working in Amsterdam for a couple of years at this
Okay,
point.
okay.
So like when people ask me, oh, what do you do in Rotterdam? Well, I live in Rotterdam.
But I work somewhere else.
Yeah.
Which is, like if you would live in London, probably you would commute as well, like 40 minutes.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean,
somewhere.
they say that the Netherlands isn't really a country, just a very spread out city. So, I mean, I know people who like commute from like Leeuwarden to Amsterdam every day, and I have no idea how that works, but apparently it works for them.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah.
But yeah, the decisions are made collectively.
Most of the time. There was a time when I was applying for jobs in the States without him knowing, but that was a couple of years ago.
But you didn't get the job.
No. And also COVID happened immediately afterwards. So,
Okay. Was he surprised when he found out?
yes.
And then he said, he threatened, like, never do this ever again without consolidating me.
I mean, we had our conversations.
Okay.
No, it was kind of like, I think at that point I was really unhappy with my career here, and I also kind of took not necessarily a year, but maybe 6 months off because we were renovating the place we got in Rotterdam and everything. And then after that, I was like, okay, what am I doing with my life? Oh, look, I could do this, that sort of thing. But at this point, we are making the decisions together.
So he's the one that has a job, and you're the
And I'm the one who doesn't.
and you're the entrepreneur.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a good mix.
Which actually means I work a lot more.
And he just sits on the couch, Netflixing.
Yeah, last night I finished work after 1. So yeah, hooray.
Okay, well, at least you have work. That's very important.
Yeah.
Especially as a being self-employed as an entrepreneur. It's it's not always that easy.
Nope.
To find your projects and to be visible, and
Yeah,
especially in like going to a new city.
Well, I
how
think
do you how do you present yourself?
immediately after I moved to Amsterdam, I kind of decided to leave my broadcasting past aside and pursue photography for a while, and I did. But
Yeah.
Then the pandemic broke down, and it was literally in March of 2020. I had like scheduled to photograph 5 events, and then one happened, and then the other one happened, but no handshakes, and then everything else was just canceled for years. And I kind of slipped back into my background, essentially. I worked in broadcasting for 10 years prior to moving countries. And then at one point, I think work just started descending from heavens into my lap. No, it was literally just referrals and stuff. Like
Is that how you do it?
I don't even have a website anymore. It's just like clients recommend me to other prospective clients and stuff. Yeah, it's been going pretty well, knock on wood.
So you're in a good place when it comes to work.
I am, yeah. I think I'm in a good place overall. Could I be in a better place? Maybe. I could be in a forest in Sweden.
But that's still a point on the horizon. You're gonna work towards too. That's nice. You know, you gotta have dreams. You cannot just like have everything figured out.
And I think the target always moves. It's kind of like I used to think like, oh, I just need to move countries and I'll become a completely new person. And it's like, no, actually, you need therapy. But I think the target always moves, and it's good that it is that way. Because I think like I don't know what was it like here, but like my parents' generation was still the type to get a job immediately out of college and just work in the same place for like 30 or 40 years
Security.
and then retire.
Yeah.
And so like I guess we don't have that security anymore. But then at the same time, you can do so much more and try so many more things.
Yeah. And also like experiment, right?
Yeah, totally.
I mean, you cook, you're in food, you photograph, you film. Now you're a podcast producer. Oh yeah, you sing. That's right. Do something a cappella.
I haven't really warmed up.
No worries.
You can look me up on the internets.
Yeah. I was pleasantly surprised seeing that, by the way, seeing you sing at one point.
Well, that's also a thing that people don't know about me. I actually went to music school for 10 years, and then I abandoned music altogether. And then I think a couple of years ago, I think it was actually around maybe 2019, I was like, okay, I've been like working in radio. I know my way around the DAW. Let's try and learn music production. And then at one point, somebody told me, your production sounds really good, but we can hear that you're not a singer. And I'm like, well, okay, now I need to find a vocal coach. And that's what I mean when I say that the target keeps moving.
Yeah, the target keeps moving. But I mean, that's what I appreciate about you, Jan, is that you also doing it. You know, you can talk about it, but you actually, you know, you make certain decisions and you try things, and if they don't work, they just don't work, and you move on, you know?
Well, I'm stubborn, so I don't believe in things not working.
No, that's true, but, you know, you moved away from photography for now, and then now you're into podcast production.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, I do still produce video. So that's like photography adjacent, but it's kind of like I realized that photography is way more fun as a hobby. And I have spent thousands of euros on vintage film cameras ever since.
Yeah.
Which is
you
probably
still need to
not
have a
the
hobby, you know?
wisest financial decision, but anyway.
Hey, but you also enrolled yourself into a Balkan podcast project?
Yeah,
what is that all about?
I have been talked into doing a podcast in Serbian, and it's the first thing I am doing in Serbian since 2014. So you can hear how bad my Serbian is at the beginning and how more used to it I become by the end of the first season. But anyway, it's kind of like when you move away from the Balkans, you're nobody's target audience anymore. And so we wanted to make basically a radio show that would target us, if that makes sense.
Serbians who live abroad.
Not just Serbians. So we're kind of targeting the entire former Yugoslavian community.
Who live abroad.
Yes.
Okay.
And the show is not only about interviews, it's actually formatted as a very modern radio show with like multiple segments. There are practical stuff. There are some local stuff. When it comes to the interview guests, we try to cover different nationalities, but then also different countries. So we're not basing the entire thing only around people living here.
But
and if this sounds fun, if you understand Serbo-Croatian, odomaćeni.com. And if you're going to argue that it's not o domaćeni, but u domaćeni, we can talk about dialects and we can talk about Croatian dialects because I don't know much about them. But yeah, odomaćeni.com.
Okay. Yeah, you can look him up and harass him on his own channel.
Yes.
with
link in the description.
Link in description.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Thanks for that bit of, was that Serbian?
Yeah, it was.
Okay, like such an international channel. You know.
Well, so the thing is, the title of the show isn't really translatable to English, so I kind of have to...
You only have to speak it that way. Okay, so that what you said was the title of the show?
Yes.
Okay, I didn't even know what you were saying, so no worries. Okay, so for everybody from the Balkans who lives abroad and interested in listening about fellow like-minded people from the Balkans, I don't even know how to describe it, please look it up, definitely through the link in the bio. Jan, we're heading towards the end of the show. I tend to give the final words always to the ones on the bench to share a bit of wisdom or knowledge about, you know, finding your good place in life. Could be, of course, the physical place or in general life. If you have something that you would like to share, I'll give you a split second to think about it. I just also love putting people on the spot, totally unprepared, non-scripted. For everybody watching, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you listen to this episode, please follow us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Google Podcasts. It would mean the world to me because then more people will find out about these valuable insights that we're actually harvesting on these public benches. Jan, you got something to say?
Well, I think just keeping it in line with some of the things we touched on in this conversation. Try things. You're never too old for that. Whatever it is, like people tend to think, oh, I'm too old to like try and move to another city or another country, or like, oh, I'm too old to become a parent. Like I know people here who became parents in their 50s. It's perfectly fine. Nobody cares.
You can also bungee jump when you're 95.
Apparently, I don't know. I mean, I don't know if it's like super advisable, but I guess with like enough medical control and stuff, and it's probably doable. Like
you're drugged up and then jump off a bridge. Yeah, could be a way forward. Good.
Don't take this as an advice, but try things. Yes.
Yeah. Thanks, Jan, for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me
for the second time. I think this one was even more fun than the first conversation.
Well, nobody froze.
Nobody froze.
So the bar is low. You know?
We didn't have any awkward silences this time.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. From Rotterdam and the skyline in Rotterdam, thank you so much for listening and watching. And looking forward to meeting the next person on a public bench. Take care. Have a nice day.
Bye.
Cheers.
All right.